Hey everybody, this video is going to go over the mood writing checkpoint. Now, the good news is here, if you did the practice mood writing checkpoint last week, you can just utilize that response and make some tweaks to make sure it fits the requirements here, so you're not recreating the wheel. So if you remember, last week's assignment was to pick one of the settings listed. I believe they were, you could describe the setting of a bus, you could describe the fairgrounds during the fair, or you could describe downtown Crown Point at the square. Now, I also said if you wanted to choose something else to describe, that's fine. So what you're going to do here is you're going to do the same thing essentially. So write 5 sentences. Again, if you have your 5 sentences already, what you're going to want to do is just revise those to make sure they fit our requirements. All right, then you're going to annotate your work by using the Footnotes tool in Google Docs, which I'll show you on this video. And then you are going to need to make sure you include all 3 of the following strategies. So essentially your footnotes are going to be you marking these strategies that you're using. So I want you to attempt to use 1 simile, 1 instance of connotation and word choice, and 1 instance of personification. So if you have me in person any day this week, we'll be going through this. If I don't see you in person, we'll be doing a mini lesson, just a mini lesson video that talks about how to incorporate these into your writing. All right, now, before you get started, if you haven't done the practice activity yet, is you need to choose a mood to do your response in. You can either choose from this graphic here, or if you click where it says list, it will also take you to a list of mood words. Next thing, you want to make sure you're putting the mood that you want readers to have when reading, and then make sure you look up the word and put the definition, because sometimes words can take on different meanings, and I want to know what type of mood specifically you're going for. And then here's where you're going to put your written response. So if you already did the other document, copy and paste it into here and just make sure you're adding those footnotes. So how to add a footnote. To show you how to insert a footnote, I'm going to use an example from a previous year. So this student wrote, "They cautiously walk down the pathway as the wind howls straight into their faces." So right here, this student said wind howls, which is an example of personification. So I'm going to go ahead and put a mark by where the strategy is used. I'm going to go to Insert, Footnote, and then that's going to bop me to the bottom of the page where I can then type out my footnote. Now, the most important thing to make sure you're including in the footnote, or the 2 most important things, are you want to identify the strategy, and you also want to make sure you are explaining the intended impact. So here's an example of what this student could have written. Here I am using personification. I want my reader to visualize the wind howling as a person in an extremity of pain would. Witnessing a person howling would make most people feel uneasy. This uneasiness helps me create a creepy mood. So in this footnote, the person has identified the strategy, which is personification, and she's also explaining what her intended impact is. So she wants the reader to visualize the wind howling as a person in an extremity of pain would. Here are some other past examples of good footnotes. So again, what you want to make sure is that you identify the strategy, and then you also explain the impact. So as you can see in yellow here, it indicates what strategy the author has chosen to use, or the student has chosen to use. And then in orange here, it indicates the intended impact. So here it says, "I used an illusion when I said that the history essay was about the Great Depression. The Great Depression was a very hard and sad moment in U.S. history." So it adds to the feeling of sadness. All right. So again, most important thing here is that we identify the strategy and then also explain the intended impact. Now, the different strategies that we are focusing in on, because we highlighted them a lot in our unit, remember, is going to be similes, personification, and connotation or word choice. Last thing I would like to point out to you is the rubric. So it is going to be out of 15 points. and you can see the breakdown of what you'll be scored on. So if we take a look at mastery, so to get full credit, 15 points. The student wrote a 5-sentence piece which creatively developed the chosen mood. The student demonstrated his or her understanding of author's choices by footnoting at least 3 of his or her choices and naming the strategy used, as well as giving an accurate and insightful explanation of the impact of the strategy. The writing was successful in that the choices had the intended impact on the reader. So that just means if you were going for a joyful mood, I should be seeing that intended impact of whatever the strategy was. I should see that you are getting across that specific mood. So if I'm reading it and I take away a very sinister mood, then that wasn't getting at the correct mood that you were going for. All right, that's all we need to know for this writing checkpoint. If you have any questions, please make sure you're reaching out to your teacher.